Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blighty Day Fiancé. Today we'll be covering Love in Paradise, Season 4, Episode 8, No One Likes a Shady Beach. I'm Jack in Los Angeles, and with me, as always, is Michelle in London. How are you today, Michelle?
I'm great. It's a bright and breezy, freezing cold 49 degrees Fahrenheit morning in June. So that's exciting.
English summer. Sounds wonderful.
It is. All 3 days of it are really nice, and they've already passed. But fortunately, we get to travel to much nicer climates today, at least relative to mine. We got some interesting moments here. It did feel a bit like sort of a filler episode almost because there wasn't earth-shattering material here necessarily, but as always, we're going to get you through it, the high points, the low points, and the points where I just want to scream and throw things at the TV.
Fair enough. Fair enough. These people, this was all a continuation from last week's travails of everybody. And Michelle, before we jump in, do we have any housekeeping we need to do?
We do have housekeeping. Welcome, 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 especially to our new members of the congregation. Don't be afraid to sit way up close to the front. We don't bite.
Unless you want us
We
to.
do spit, though, a lot. We spit a lot. Yes, very warm welcome. DM us, Blighty Day Fiance, at Blighty Day Fiance on Instagram, our YouTube channel, Blighty Day Fiance. If you're into that sort of thing, we are also on TikTok, which I think is also Blighty Day Fiance. You can tell how tech savvy I am. If you want to email one person specifically on our team, so me, Jack, Cousin Dan, our producer and editor, and Robin, then please send us an email, blightydayfiance@gmail.com. Join our Facebook group, Blighty Day Bays. Blighty is spelled Blighty. Bays is spelled Baes. Thank you so much to our mods on the Facebook group. We love you so much. And last but certainly not least, if you want to hear these hot, fresh takes ad free, or if you want to see our faces on video and all of the weird stuff that we do, uh,
All the weird
because
stuff we do.
because we forget that people are actually watching, then yeah, I mean, as I've said before, I pick my face constantly. I shift positions. Sometimes I'm cross-legged, sometimes I have my legs up against the wall, sometimes I'm in my pajamas. You're missing out. At $5, we'll get you all of our episodes ad-free, including the weekly bonus episode, which this week, in honor of Pride Month and at friend of the show, Bronwyn's suggestion, is going to be a classic episode of the L Word,
The
which should be
original.
interesting coming from two boring cishet white people. Um, Nevertheless, $10 is going to get you onto that video tier. 15 gets you all of the above. Plus, you get to choose the bonus episode each week. So join us over there. If for whatever reason, patreon.com/Blighty Day Fiance doesn't work, just look us up in the search function.
We'll be there.
We'll be waiting.
So, looking, and thank you for that housekeeping, Michelle. What a lovely homemaker you are. And let's look at our gaggle of couples today. I would. Okay, so as we're picking up on some murky stuff from last week, how do you feel about opening up with two of my favorites? I sent you a picture of Pepe Le Pew and his erstwhile love companion because it reminded me of Luke and Madeleine. How do you feel about starting there?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. Um, we didn't mention in our initial discussion of Luke's girlfriend voice is that part of his girlfriend voice is this weird Spanish accent, where like when he answers the phone, he'll be like, "Hello." I bet he's a joy to go to casual Mexican dining with.
He does all the right speaking parts. He really does the part well. He lives up to it. I just like that he actually is half Mexican, but to Madeleine, he's all gringo, 100%.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
it makes
relative to a native Colombian, yeah.
and this is going to get interesting because there's, I don't know, we'll get to it, but Luke keeps sticking his foot in his mouth with his fiance's age. So I'm curious what you
Oh
have to
my
say about
God.
that as we get to it. It's the second straight week, possibly third, that this has been an ongoing conundrum for poor Luke. Can I call him poor Luke, or should I not call him poor Luke?
I don't really feel bad for him. I'm just saying that if you don't want to quote unquote play teenage games or high school games, then don't date a teenager. And also, she's handling this really well. She has nothing to apologize for. Nothing. I may have told the story on the show before. If you really want to know, you can ask me. A British actor who is, I don't think he's like a household name in America, but he's been in some blockbusters. He's a movie star and he does TV. Um, there was a time when I was living with um, a first AD to another famous British director that I'm not telling this story to name drop. I'm just explaining how this person ended up at my house. So anyway, there's
People can use
a
their imagination.
use your imagination. This director may or may not have been married at some point to an American pop star. Um,
Narrowing it down, folks.
anyway, but I wasn't staying at his house. I was staying at his first AD's house. So, um, one night I'm sleeping and in comes this said movie star, flops onto the bed. I'm in the bed and he
Is
doesn't really
he?
notice.
I was going to ask. He's unaware of your presence at this point.
Fully clothed, jacket on, shoes on, totally unaware of my presence, is briefly startled, and I couldn't really understand what he was saying, but he reassured me that, he wasn't looking for any funny business, that he thought the room was empty. He felt really terrible. He was really drunk. And I was like, it's fine. I don't mind, like I'm alone in this bed. I'm single, but my landlord is in the house and I've seen you on TV and movies and this is not, this doesn't feel like a dangerous situation. I'm not saying that it makes it okay that he did that. um, anyway, it was very surreal. We did talk for a little while, and he told me a bedtime story.
Was it a original or was it a traditional bedtime story?
I don't know. I mean, it sounded like, I'm not sure why he went there. But he didn't, again, fully clothed, stayed on his side of the bed. There was no touching of any kind. And then
Emotional
about
touching from this gripping story he told you, though.
it was just it was just it was an interesting time in my life. And then 2 days later, he sent me flowers and apologized profusely and said that he felt terrible for, you know, uh, doing something like crashing on my bed without asking.
Well, he
But
sounds
he
like
was really
he behaved very proper in the long run of the whole thing.
he did, and it was fun because I had seen him in this incredible, like, iconic independent film, and so I already hugely admired him, and because of what I'm like, part of the me not objecting was just like, "Oh, cool, I get to have a conversation with him. I really like him." And
Well,
he's a lovely person, salt of the earth.
if it didn't get creepy, which it didn't sound like it got really creepy, it sounds like an interesting moment in the middle of the night.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that this situation mirrors mine, um, but I strongly suspect that she had a party, which she doesn't need Luke's permission to do, and this man went into her room without her permission and passed out, and when she came to bed, she found him there, and because she is tiny and 75 pounds soaking wet, she wasn't really in a position to like physically remove him from the bed.
Now, I
Um,
agree with you, but I feel like you're painting a picture that we didn't necessarily get on the show because she's saying that she just had sort of a wild party, right? Like
mhm.
going late. And then this one dude ends up passed out in her bed. And now you were surmising to me that you thought maybe there were multiple people who passed out, at a long night, night party. But she didn't say that, and it bothered me a little bit, but I was trying to discern throughout the episode if she was just being a little coy because she was really pissed off of even having to have this conversation or be accused, you know?
Mm. So you're saying that
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just giving another, I'm just trying to look at it a little bit from Luke's standpoint, just in the sense. Now, he loses points, and we're jumping around a little bit because this was all kind of like what their segment was today. But he loses points when he brings up, "It's my house. I paid for it. Yeah, you can't have parties there." That's like a silly time argument right there.
yeah, he what bothered me was that he's putting so much faith in these rumors and hearsay. And by the way, huge round of applause. And I know that people shouldn't be rewarded for doing the right thing, but she so could have easily made this her moment and she didn't. Huge round of applause and major kadoos to Irrelevant's girlfriend who said,
Oh,
"I
you're
have nothing
talking
to do
about
with this. This is none of my business." Yeah.
this is the friend Luke's friend Brian's wife, actually, right?
If Luke feels disrespected, then that's fine. I wouldn't be, I don't know. I'm more realistic. I think about my late teens and early 20s and the number of beds that I passed out in that weren't mine, that you wake up and there's like four other people sleeping next to you, and it can just be a totally innocent thing, and I don't
But
know what she slept in.
now you were not married or engaged at her age, correct?
No, not at the times that I was like passing out drunk at parties. I was not engaged.
Right. That's my only point that I'm going to make here about that is, and I'm not saying she's right or wrong. I'm just saying that and look, this is maybe just another highlight of the age difference between them. Um,
Mm,
just in the fact of, yes, when you're 19, you can do that stuff. When you're 30, you probably shouldn't. And if you're 30 dating a 19-year-old, you're probably not going to remember your life
right.
back then.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
don't,
That's
I'm just trying to put it in perspective in the sense, again, not saying she did anything wrong. I think this is like a microcosm issue of their larger issue, which we'll get to again because it's the later quote about the teenager, which we already touched on, but I just don't want to get to the end of their story quite yet.
she could have slept on that bear, in fairness. Like that giant she seems to have sufficient soft furnishings to have. Now, should she have had to do that? No.
No,
Would I have done that being affianced and knowing that he's got like shitty gossipy friends, or that I invite shitty gossipy people to my party? No. And so I wouldn't have done that. I don't think it's what he's making it out to be.
well, let me
Um
ask you this based on that same point there. Do you get any vibe that he's using this as like an escape hatch? Like, I kind of am feeling really overwhelmed, and you fuck someone, I'm out.
Totally. Yeah. The timing is very convenient, isn't it?
Well, it's like he's already having these feelings. Then Magic Brian, the friend, comes over and is like, hey, man, she was like in a bed with a
Irrelevant
dude.
Brian. Yeah,
Irrelevant. I do want to give Brian and his wife credit for having one of the smoothest, cleanest exits in show history from a blossoming argument. I
that's
mean,
true.
they just disappeared.
Can I share this is I was just thinking about passing out at parties. It's not going the direction that you think it is, listeners, but if you are triggered by alcohol use and sickness that may result from that alcohol use, speed forward about a minute. So I need to tell you about, and this legit informs a lot of my spiritual beliefs. Okay. I was at a party. I was really drunk. I had maybe partaken in some other party favors, and I felt really sick. So I knew this house very well. It was a house party. My friends lived there, and I went into one of their bedrooms and I lay down on my back, and the room was spinning. By the way, if you feel dizzy and you need to lay down on your back, a good thing to do is put one foot on the floor, like off the bed. It really helps you feel grounded. Hot tip.
That's a great tip.
So, but I didn't do that. I was completely immobilized. I don't know how I got to that state, but I got very dizzy and I started to feel sick and I started to choke
Oh my God.
on, yeah. And everyone was downstairs. There was no, it wasn't even like people had paired off and gone into other rooms.
Hmm.
And out of nowhere, one of the housemates who like I knew, but he wasn't like one of my friends from the house,
Yeah.
he came up and saw what was happening and turned me on my side and like stayed with me until I was okay. And I don't know, like he wasn't up there to go to the bathroom as far as I knew. Like I don't know what brought him up there, but I don't know what would have happened to me if he hadn't shown up.
And you were, not to be gross here, but you were what, choking on vomit?
Yes.
Okay, just to be clear. Wow. Okay, so this dude was what, like a guardian angel of sorts? Just
Yeah.
that's wild. He had seemingly no ill intent and just helped you. That's a it's a beautiful
Yeah.
story.
But sometimes I'm like, did that even really happen? Do
Oh,
you know what I mean?
you mean like was there actually a real person there or was it something else?
Right.
Ah, yes,
Because it
well,
felt like, because that is not, there's another story that's not really appropriate for non-Patreon, but you know the story,
yes.
where a similar thing happened. Uh, totally different
Very
circumstance.
very different outcomes.
Yes. Well, no, the outcomes are I'm still here, bitches. Die mad.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit. Now, so it feels like Madeleine's experience here that she's getting a little bit crucified for struck a chord with you.
Why do we crucify ourselves? Sorry. Um, was that a question?
No, it can be a comment. What
um,
I was going to just bring us back on track for a second here, and
you can't
just
say
wanted,
crucified to a millennial zennial with with a Gen X older sister and female
yeah, I heard
cousins
it
and not
too.
expect a
I
Tory husband to come
just
out.
moved past it. So I wanted to know what you thought about why did Shitty Brian bring up this weird gossipy rumor that he heard on some fucking DM from somebody or something? What is his purpose? Do you think he just doesn't think his buddy should be with this girl? Do you think he actually thinks Luke's getting used? What do you think?
Well, now that you've mentioned the sort of um, convenient out that this creates. That's all I can think about now. And I wonder if there wasn't a conversation between Luke and irrelevant Brian where Luke was saying, "Hey, Mang, can you make up this rumor about my girlfriend?"
So he's using girlfriend voice for Brian
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
I have a feeling that Luke's girlfriend voice just gets turned up to 10 whenever he's speaking to a native Spanish speaker.
it happens.
So let me see here. We talking about with them now? Okay, so we can skip ahead here. What is this? Okay, hold on. My notes merged. Sorry, I'm looking. I got Kyle and Annie in my Luke and Madeleine notes. My notes jumped. But
I think we've said everything there is to be said about them.
yes, I would just, yeah, I would, I just, I, we prefaced it a bunch there. I just want to say that the kind of peak of this incident is Luke bemoaning the fact that he is with a pouty teenager, and this is not how an adult woman acts. And I just kind of had my mouth agape, like, dude, you were dating a teenager. So all of this dating a teenager is annoying. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I haven't dated one since I was one, but I mean, this is he's veering into Captain Obvious territory, and it's not a great look on him. He looks like an asshole.
It's not just that. It's good luck dating adult women, Luke, because an adult woman isn't going to date a broke loser who
He's got the sunglass
blew
line
his
though.
401k on cheap, shitty sunglasses. So, yeah, good luck with that. And who can't dance.
He can't dance. That
Congrats.
that half Latin DNA did not help him. Dances like
Look,
a gringo. Madeleine's words.
yep, I'm not trying to be unkind, but because he keeps bringing up this teenager and maturity thing, good luck finding a woman in her 30s who wants someone who is broke, bad with money, terrible at business. Shall we move on to
Yes.
Shawn and Alliya?
Yeah, this is the, I guess if you want to call it the hard-hitting part of the episode this week, because this was interesting. There's a lot that comes out that we previously didn't know, and we're going to see some, it's a little bit of a trope, as we say on the
It's
show.
but
Yeah,
it's
no.
also it's a side of Shawn that I should have seen coming and I didn't, and I'm kind of annoyed at myself for not seeing it.
Well, we're going to get into it here because what we find out early on is Aliyah is stating that they have not had sex at all on this trip, which is it's been a while, has it not? I mean, it feels like he's Sean's been there for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
3 weeks,
Yeah, something like that.
enough that if usually you would get together with your significant other in that stretch of time. Um, were you? Let me ask you this: what did you think Shawn was going to sort of mention as he was hemming and hawing? We're going to jump around this conversation a little bit, but as he was sort of hemming and hawing about the fact that, he doesn't really know how to. What I heard is, I don't really know how to be sexual with your female feminine body, and I miss your masculine Douglas body. Am I off on that, or do you think that's somewhat accurate?
I don't think that that was said. I
No, I'm
think,
reading into what Shawn was
oh,
saying, not a direct quote.
that's a tricky one. I I kind of took those comments at face value because it is we may not like or agree with with this opinion, right? Or this
Hmm.
perspective.
Right.
But um he said Shawn said, "For me to feel sexually empowered, I need to feel more like the man."
Yes.
Um,
Which
and you
I
can't.
can. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I had a question about that though. If you're dating a man and then the man transitions into being a woman, how would that make you feel less masculine? It's just a question because I couldn't really wrap my head around that comment.
I I could only speculate because I've never been in that situation.
Of course, that's what we do here. We speculate about things we don't know
Yeah,
about.
if anyone has, in fact, I would love to hear, and, of course, everything's confidential. But I know we have listeners out there who have that experience where either they have transitioned during the course of a relationship or their partner has transitioned during a course of the relationship. So we'd love to be able to talk about this with um, a little more after hearing from someone with a little more lived experience. The way that it's presented on the show is more like Alliya, or the way that I read it is Alliya is confident and assertive.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I gotcha.
Douglas was shy, timid, whatever
Reserved.
word you want to use. Yeah, which to me just says passive, and what kind of
Oh, now
grossed me
now
out a
it's
little
getting
bit.
creepy. It's getting creepy now when you just said
Yeah.
passive.
Yeah, because what I'm hearing from Shawn is I like to be in charge, and that's fair enough, right?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
need to feel like a man, whatever that, like the man, whatever that means. Like I need
Hmm.
you to you're not going to be the boss bitch of me, etc. But when I hear something like
Direct
that,
quote.
yeah, when I hear something like that, I my read on that is I need you to not express what your needs and desires are.
That is a really good read, right? Because he wasn't giving her any latitude to do anything different. It was sort of like, hey, I like the relationship the way it was, and I kind of wanted to stay the same. And I don't know, we didn't really get a like next steps on this. Of course, we're kind of burying the lead a little bit here, which is the reveal that they have been in an open relationship since they started dating online during COVID, if I got that correct.
Yeah. Um I don't think it's an accident that this wasn't discussed.
So
Um
when you say that, I want you to go into this a little bit, but are you saying that maybe Shawn knew it wasn't like really discussed, but he could kind of do his thing because we didn't talk about it. So, that's we're open.
well, his love language is touch, and he can't. Look, I get 8 months without sex. We'd and if I'm in a relationship with someone, we'd have to come to an understanding.
Right. Right.
Um I think that would be, I'm not saying it's impossible, and obviously I would have that discussion as respectfully as I could, but particularly in, like, it's different if you've already been with that person for 8 years or 5 years or
Yes.
whatever. It's not even a length of time thing. It's like an established relationship. If you've only been talking to that person casually, you know, and you haven't met them in person, and you don't like have a foundation of a relationship in a traditional sense, I think my view on that is you're exclusive until you agree that you're not.
So you think if you start talking to someone, even if it's an online thing, that you should assume it's exclusive unless it's made clear otherwise?
No, I'm saying the opposite.
You're okay. Okay. I think I misheard you.
I'm saying if you're talking to someone online or in real life,
Hmm.
until you have a conversation about exclusivity, you're not exclusive.
Gotcha. Yes. Yes. So were
But
you? Yeah. Go ahead.
at the same time, Shawn's aware that Alliya comes from a very conservative culture, and Shawn should have taken that into account when making any promises about their relationship.
Or lack of
Because
promises.
yeah, exactly. Because you wouldn't have the same, it wouldn't be the same conversation if, like, you know, let's say you're in an arranged marriage type situation where you haven't
Hmm.
met that person, but it's understood that you're off the market, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And obviously, there are certain religions and other cultures that forbid premarital sex.
Right.
So you would have that kind of understanding then, but it's not. I'm saying, yeah. I mean, in our society, but Shawn can't automatically apply that to Brazilian culture and to Alliya's culture and how she was raised and her understanding of how relationships work. So I thought that was a pretty lame and shitty excuse, really. I
Now, let me
wasn't
ask
having
you,
it.
do you think that Shawn, being an older man in his 60s, are you saying that he should have taken taken the time to kind of explain some things to Alliya that he was taking for granted, that maybe Alliya had not experienced, and Shawn should have realized Alliya had not experienced such things?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's, I agree with you. I mean, that's where it got a little weird, and not weird like it wasn't consensual or something, just weird where it was like, okay, so you knew this about Douglas slash Alliya, Shawn, but you're kind of still like, yeah, but I'm home, I'm in LA, I'm in New York, I kind of want to fuck. I mean, that's fine. But again, like you're saying, you should probably have a conversation. I guess the part that makes it a little confused for me is, where, I don't know, putting fault on either of them is hard because it's just kind of some miscommunication. But Alliya should have asked, Shawn should have said something, and then is what should have happened somewhere in the middle? Or do you have to expect more from the older person?
I think you need to expect more from the more experienced person and the
Sure.
person who's more comfortable in their sexuality and confident in what they want. And also, there's, and I would say this about any couple in any open relationship, but I have a feeling that, and this hasn't been expressly stated, I don't think. I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. I don't think Alliya had a sexual relationship prior to being with Shawn. And I think
What gives you that idea? I don't disagree, just curious what gives you that idea.
just the age and you know, the fact that Alliya is still living with her grandparents who are very closed-minded and stuff like that. I could be wrong. That's just the vibe that I get. But even if that weren't the case, when you are sleeping with multiple people, you owe it to each of those people to say, "Hey, I'm slinging it around," you know?
BT dubs, I'm fucking other people.
Yeah, exactly. Like you should get tested, right? I get tested.
Yes.
This is what I do. So I think there's a lot I don't like it. This conversation kind of like really gave me the ick for lots of reasons because that is manipulative and it's not putting if you love someone, you don't put their sexual health in danger like that.
100%. And, we have Alliya talking about that she only found out that Shawn was doing anything with anyone else because they were on a trip to Spain. And she, I don't know, used his, I don't, that didn't sound nefarious. It sounded like she just had his phone for a second, maybe taking pictures or something. And then he had a bunch of hookup apps open on the phone in Spain. And she says she was really sad at the time, and still is, but at the time she found out, to find out that they were not monogamous. And in fact, he's been out there, as you said, slinging it around. And then that's going to make Alliya not feel special. And, it seemed like she was already not feeling super special. And, and then throw in this, I don't know, gargoyle, Jackie, the friend. I mean,
Yeah.
which, who knows if that's a real friend or not, but I had said to you during the show that I felt like she was leading the witness a little bit, and it wasn't that she was
Yeah,
wrong or Alliya
definitely.
was wrong. Yeah, I mean, did you agreed just that
Yeah,
she was overstepping?
yeah, and she's not as good at this as she thinks she is. It's really it's too much. Um
It's a really bad approach with Shawn because he's stone facing her and just like he's not going to engage. I don't know if you can see that. He's
as would I.
of
As would
course
I.
he
Like
shouldn't engage
any
with her.
I've never had the experience, like none of my past uh partners, friends have ever like come for me like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never
A-
quite
And
experienced
so
that
I just
either.
don't, yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I've had friends and family say really rude things to me before,
Who
but
hasn't?
that's yeah, but that's an entirely different thing.
Yes, yes, yes. And just looking at this, it's so Aliyah makes it clear that she wants a monogamous relationship with Shawn going forward. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's somewhat wishful thinking. Shawn said that the open relationship was a matter of convenience, which is where I think he mentioned I haven't been laid in 8 months, so I can't really do that.
Sure, but then in the preview for the next episode, he's like, "Oh, I guess my understanding of that is that Aaliyah's asking him to cut out his old fuck buddies."
Yes, which we see there's a very special paramour to Shawn that he's been seeing for many years, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, and I look, I get that. I had a friend who, before we were married, we we would often be single at the same time. And if we were single at the same time and in the same city,
Hmm.
we would have carnal relations that were very enjoyable. And people would always, like, friends would always say to us, like, "Oh, why don't you guys try and make it work?" And it's like, well, he lives there and I live there. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's not enough of, like, we are just really good friends who
Who occasionally
have
fuck.
that. Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't ever going to be more than that. And I think cutting someone like that, I mean, if you're a straight man, that just happens naturally once you get married and have kids. At least that's my experience, because I stopped existing to a lot of my male friends after they got married and had kids.
It might have not been
But
the male friend's decision for you to not exist anymore. Just throwing it out there.
why is that?
Sometimes wives and girlfriends don't love other women hanging around, even if there's no ill intent. I experienced this. I'm speaking from partial experience, sort of, with my mother getting divorced. She was in her early 40s when they got divorced, and a lot of her good
Oof.
friends did not want her around their husbands, and my mom didn't do anything like that. It was, any sort of attractive single woman. A lot of
But you know
women.
what that is too? That's the divorce is like an illness. You know, if I'm
We're all going to
around
catch
you,
it,
I
and no
might
one's going
catch
to be
it. We're all
married
going to catch it.
anymore. Yes, yes,
I'm
yes.
curious how many of those friends ended up divorced too.
About 80%.
Yeah. So,
So that
wow.
tells you maybe those marriages weren't so strong in the first place. So I was a little put off when Shawn was talking about his prior relationship with Alliya in the past and how he would have really resented Alliya if he was not permitted to have sexual relations with whoever he wanted to when they were apart and Shawn was in the US and Alliya was in her country. And did that hit your ear poorly? Because it sort of bothered me. You're going to resent someone who you love for not letting you fuck other people. I didn't love it, but maybe I'm hearing it in a specific way. Maybe you can enlighten me, Michelle.
That didn't go into the filth bucket for me. That didn't end up in the slurry of yucky things that Shawn said that rubbed me the wrong way. I think that's more just being honest, like I would have been resentful about, for some, yeah, resentments aren't good and they're like poison to a burgeoning relationship. And I think he was just being honest. I think he was just saying, I think, and I personally don't think it's fair to expect someone to commit unless you have that conversation up front before you've met them or while you're casually dating.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying, though. Like, probably Shawn knew better and knew what Alliya needed to hear, but didn't have that conversation intentionally. And, I think that that says a lot. I think it says a lot about their relationship and
Mm.
kind of where it's going. I'm just seeing if we have anything else about
You're right
them.
there because I'll put a button on it with
Yeah,
this, right?
please.
So what it does say about Shawn, now that specific statement didn't make me feel uncomfortable, but what it says is that Shawn thinks that that's a justification for not having the conversation. It's like
Right.
something bad would have happened had I not done that. And I can't stand it when people are avoidant like that. And it doesn't speak to a future where Alliya would feel comfortable coming to Shawn with her concerns. It's like, "Oh, I didn't tell you about that because I didn't want you to nag me," or "I didn't tell you about that
Right.
because I didn't want to get in a fight." Like, that's not an excuse not to be upfront with someone.
I
So,
feel like the way Shawn's behavior has sort of turned a little bit, it gives an almost like sugar daddy, sugar baby vibe a little bit. And I don't think at all that's what Alliya really wants. I know she appreciates the
I don't
makeup
think
and the
she
hair.
minds it.
Of course not. Of course not. I'm saying she doesn't mind all of that stuff, but I think given a choice, I don't think that I think it's feeling a little bit transactional to me once it's an open relationship and I bring you gifts and I send you gifts, but I don't really want to be in a monogamous relationship with you. And hey, I'm a serial monogamist, so maybe that just hits my ear a little bit wrong.
I think that you're underestimating I think that's a fair comment, but I think you're underestimating the benefits that Alliya gets out of this relationship. And I just go back time and again to I think one of the first scenes we see them together where Alliya is saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna get butt implants, right? Like
Right,
I
right,
want
right.
this and this and this done." And it's not like I'm thinking of doing this, it's I'm getting this and you're going to pay for it.
Right. But then, okay, so if you look at it that way, would you say it's a little bit transactional on both
Yeah,
sides of
it
the
is,
relationship?
but I'm
Okay.
saying it's transactional on both sides. I think I understood that you were saying that it's transactional and it's one-sided and she wants more than that. I think look, all of us want everything,
Yes.
right?
I
It
think
would be
that, yes.
great to have a partner who can look after all the material stuff while you follow your bliss at whatever your local ceramic painting
Candle making.
facility is. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But typically, not always, it's one thing or the other, right?
Yes, yes.
Or and I'm not saying that love can't
Conquer
grow
all.
in those environs, but it's harder because um sugar daddies run out or mommies
Yes.
sometimes run out of sugar. And as Jake Anthony says, sugar without sugar, sugar babies become vinegar babies.
True. It's true. So, okay. So, thank you. You've now made me feel like they're both sort of shitty, and like,
Yeah, it
and
happens.
it's yeah, yeah.
This is the way of the sharp, the Matt Sharp, like
Of
make
course,
us fall in love with people and then have them disappoint us. This is what we sign up for every
it's
season.
what this. It's what's holding this universe together, folks. It's what's holding
Um
it together.
and speaking of sort of newly nefarious characters coming out.
Yes.
Let's talk about Alex and Adriano.
This was, and I just have to say, this was a heartwarming scene between the two of them. I mean, I've never seen a real. I can't even joke for a second there. This
No.
is garbage. I've also, I got. Let me ask you this: how many days has she been there in reality at this point in filming? She been there for like 5 days, or you think like 2 weeks?
I don't know. Why do you ask?
Because they're having the same one note conversation, and I cannot believe that she would. How long can you have the, yeah, I'm not into threesomes, and actually, despite never really mentioning this to you, I'm super religious and I want to go home and go to my church. And this guy is like, cool, so I hear what you've been saying. I want to turn it a little bit. Do you want to fuck another woman with me? What do you think? Huh?
It was I thought it was hilarious that from from the beginning, Alex is saying, "I just thought we could use a day off from all this drama," as if she isn't the source and the cause of all the drama. She's like, "We've been fighting our about me being a believer and threesomes and blah blah blah," and it's like you start 99.9 of those conversations. I'm not saying he isn't annoying with the threesome stuff, but she's the one that brought religion into it and all of that. And a
Also,
non-dramatic way, a way to like stop that threesome conversation is just to say,
do it.
"I-
No,
I'm
just
not
I'm just
having
kidding.
that."
No, and now no, when you had told me when we were watching this that it started to feel a little coercive to you with the way Adriano was pointing to
Yes,
women
I
on the
was getting
beach.
to that. We can get to that in a minute.
Oh,
What
sorry.
I was trying to say just then was that Alex can at any time, or could have at any time when the threesome conversations start, "I don't want to have this conversation right now. Let's just have a good time. If it's that important to you, we can make time for this conversation." But, and then you don't have a huge, massive fucking argument about it. That's the
You're
problem, is that instead of like gray rocking him and just being like, "Nope, not now," she always has to go like, "But threesomes are shameful and ugly and
which then gives him the
wrong."
opening to explain how beautiful three bodies
Exactly.
together are in
Yep.
one time.
Yep.
And
I bet they are.
I'm
Sure.
sure, I'm sure it's a great time, but if your significant other is not interested, it's kind of like a fruitless thing there. And I just I just can't believe that they're still hung. It's the same fucking thing the entire season. Where it's still, I was a little surprised, and I started feeling like I thought he was just being like, "Hey, I'm threesome guy. Like that's my thing. That's all I talk about." But then it turned into like, it just it got me when it felt like he was almost like rubbing her back, like almost too softly, and being like, "Come on, baby, what do you think of this one right over there? What do you think? We go out for some nice drinks. We see if the mood strikes us." It was really, it was it. And she's saying no, like every second. She's like, nope, nope, nope.
I this was definitely a vibe of, "Come on, let's pick out the lobster that we're about to have for dinner." Like it definitely didn't feel, it's like could not have been. This was so fucking creepy. This is like some Manson family shit, or you know, Seeking Sister Wife shit, where they like skulk around a bar and go, "What about that one? What about that one? What about that one?" It's just this was so creepy. And it really, like, sorry, I can't, I'm not on anyone's side and I don't think these two should be together, but I'm not condoning, I don't think this is healthy behavior or safe behavior. I think it's
You're
really
talking.
predatory and creepy and gross.
Do you think that at this point, Adriano should have just given up and said, like, hey, look, I've had a really good time with you. You're into being religious. I'm into having threesomes and I don't believe in God. So, you know, good luck.
No, because why would he give up the sure thing?
But is the
Because
sure thing very fun right now?
It has to be. And I know I said before I couldn't really see it and I didn't think that he was a great lover, but even if he's not, he's fathoms above anyone that she's
Oh,
had
100%.
sex with from her church who like I have a terrible feeling she's been with man after man who's like, "Oh, I don't eat pussy, it's wrong." Like that's demeaning for
It's
men.
dirty. It's dirty for
Yeah.
you. You wouldn't like it. It's
Yeah.
bad for you. And if you like it, it's not a good sign.
Yeah, exactly. Blowjobs are fine though. That's like what
You should
the
suck my
Lord
dick every day,
wants.
but I can't go down on you. God will rain down on me if I do.
Yeah, culturally it's just not, you know, it's not
It's
good.
not ladylike, okay, Alex? So, but now are you saying that maybe she has experienced some good loving with Adriano? So maybe that's the draw because she never really experienced it before?
I think yeah, I think him doing the bare minimum is like rocking her world. And I know I said the opposite before. I've changed my stance, okay? Um I don't think he is that lazy because I do think he's really into seeing the pleasure that he gives others
Yes,
as it
for
relates
sure.
to him. I still think he's a pretty selfish lover because it's all about him and what and the effect that he's having. He's
Yes.
not like genuinely invested in his partner and what they're thinking and feeling. But I mean, he's definitely eaten her ass.
I just wanted to know if being passionate and putting your mouth all over your partner is special and rarefied air or if it's expected. For me, it's always expected. I
I
don't
think
talk, but
you're
yeah, sorry, go ahead. I don't talk to
it
my male
depends.
friends about this. They don't, my guy friends won't talk about this shit.
No, that's fine. I understand. I'm often the woman that my remaining guy friends will talk to about this stuff. And I'd love to know from our listeners what your answers are because when I was growing up um in Bethesda, Maryland, near Washington D.C., and I was a teenager, it was expected of me that like I remove all my body hair at all times and not to get too much into like my sex life or lack thereof as a teenager or a young woman in her 20s, but the general message was eating pussy is disgusting and to be avoided and all the guys just and if they did do it, they were so overly influenced by what they saw on
Porn.
porn
Yeah.
and what people let me let us because I'm sure Jack knows this too, probably better than I do because he's watched way more of it. But let you in on a little filmmaking magic, ladies and gentlemen. The angles that need to be created so that you can see everything. Uh, Trigger warning: porn
Triple
addiction. If you
X.
don't want to hear about porn, yeah, the camera angles, particularly when women are being serviced in that method, have to be cheated because if you're doing it like documentary style, you're not going to see anything
Correct.
because
Right.
someone's
You need an extra camera up who looks like Adriano, kind of like pushing the guy to the side, and then he's getting the overhead a little bit. Yeah, that makes
right.
sense.
And you have to sort of you have to sort of like cheat to the camera even doing I'm not gonna you know what I will I'm gonna give them a treat. Well, I'm gonna this is especially for the top tiers, okay? So
This is
like
why you want to get on that video tier, folks.
what you see on a porn
Yes.
is like that's the
Legs.
vagina, right?
Okay. Yes. Oh, gotcha.
and
I thought you
and
were
you
okay.
see
Gotcha.
kind of like that, right? or you're
Yes,
seeing it
accurate.
from a different perspective where this is
Where you can
here and
see, yes,
then
yes.
yeah.
that
I
was a
feel like
really
if
good.
I
That was really well done.
thank you. And if it's the fellas, similarly, you're not getting you're cheated out like at an angle like that
Yes, same.
unless it's POV. And even anyway, what I'm saying is
If
that
you want
does
more
not
Pornhub discussion, write in. Let us know.
what I'm saying is you're not getting an accurate view of that act as it would happen in nature. So I had a, a bunch of guys kind of like doing that. And that is my point. That that the bar is pretty low, particularly from the conservative place that Alex comes from.
So you're saying that he's probably like the first person she's been with who was actually a good lover in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
We'll wrap on Alex and Adriano here, but if so, I have gone back to this the entire season, which is, and it sounds like this really should. I mean, now more than ever, this should have been like 1 week of fun, and maybe we'll send one email, and then that'll be that, because there's nothing to build off of. You're saying that he seems like he may have rocked her world like it's never been rocked. So for a lot of women, you use that as a kind of building point for what you actually want in your true man or true person, let's
Yes.
say.
Yes, but I think she's thinking I'm never going to get sex like this in Dallas, and she's probably right.
So do you think she's torn then between like, I don't really want to have threesomes and everything, but the sex is unbelievable, and when I go back, I'm going to be bored as fuck?
I just don't think that she really knows who she is yet. She's a very, very immature 29, 30-year old. And she's so insecure about, in storytelling, we talk about the tension between the want and the need, right? What
Mm-hmm.
does this character want versus what do they need? She needs to know who she is and what she wants out of life for herself, and any of
Absolutely.
those choices is going to be whatever choice that she makes, as long as it's an informed one, is going to be right. And if it isn't, she's got plenty of time for it to have been the wrong choice. That's the thing. That's what kills me about all of this, like I got married very young and it was the wrong thing, but I don't overall regret doing it because it changed the course of my life
Right. I mean, you
forever.
wouldn't be
And
where you are now if you hadn't had those
exactly,
experiences.
exactly. I'm not saying I have no regrets in life, but most of the regrets that I have are like things that I said or did that hurt people, you know?
Right. Right.
Like, but it's never choices that I've made or decisions that I've made.
We grow from our choices and decisions, don't we? That's the idea.
We grow from the consequences of those choices and decisions.
Oh,
Or the
better
maybe
said.
consequence is too strong a word. Yeah, of course it is. This is what we do. You say something, I improve on it.
That's going to be our shtick, everybody. Hey, what do you think about moving to Annie and Kyle?
Ani und Kyle. That
Yes.
sounds very sexy. Yes, I like that very much.
Did you like the phrasing that Kyle used when he said, "We essentially made love last night"?
I think he said it was like making love, basically.
Okay, either we essentially or
Um,
basically we sort of made
yeah,
love.
no,
Either
but
way.
yeah, very practical terms that you should always use. That is when he. Here's the part that I. Here's a part that I really struggled with. Okay, he didn't say that he took his clothes off.
We find out that they had unprotected sex. And I found this interesting because we were sort of led to believe that, being that Kyle's a donator, that, I mean, it seemed like that's what Annie
The
was
word is
interested in?
donor, by the way.
Excuse me, donor. Um, it seemed like that's what Annie was into, and but then she wants the Plan B pill the morning after. So, what do you make of that? Because that's a little bit of a shift in their story. I think I could be wrong because it's
I didn't
a
see it
little
that way. I
uneven.
think my understanding of that story was that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was
No, you're good.
enjoying correcting you so much. I
I
went
know
to
you
a
seem to really get
place.
a kick out of it.
I I do. I'm into it. I'm not going to lie. So my understanding is that they met online in a forum for people, for women who were looking for donors, or people who were looking for donors, right?
Right. You're right. Yeah.
But that, and so that's how the conversation started, but that it then evolved into something else of, oh, maybe we should date.
Okay. Instead of
Um
just be a donor, let's actually maybe have a
right.
relationship.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think they've touched on that a
Yeah,
few
they did.
times.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
According to Kyle, Ani said that he had the longest penis she's ever seen.
Not biggest, not thickest, longest.
We all know which, when it comes to length, width, what's the other one?
Girth,
It's surface area, girth.
surface area.
I don't know. I fucking failed geometry. I don't know. What's it
Check
called?
out the surface area on this guy. Woo!
What's it called if it's like a cylinder shape?
Well, I mean, it's not really.
Circumference,
Yes,
right?
circumference. There you go. Yeah,
Or is
but
that
girth.
just a circle?
I think girth kind of covers the topic.
Ani confirms that it's a big dick. I refuse to believe that it's a thick one, though.
It's okay. Now that we have talked about Kyle's body enough, something that I was curious about your take on was Kyle's discussion of Ani's body, which involved knowing, according to him, that she's definitely not pregnant and couldn't be because he knows how to read her body so perfectly. Thoughts?
Wow. Well, I'm going to raise two. I think this discussion needs to be split into two major topics. One is the claim about knowing her body and all of that, and the other is the morning after pill stuff,
Yes. Yes.
and to my mind, confirmation that he is a reproductive abuser, and this is about control, and Ani might finally be seeing the light. So, to begin with, the no, you can't be pregnant, the utter panic at being asked to get the morning after pill. Now, granted, Malta is a very Catholic country. I don't know how easy it is to get the morning after pill, or, what kinds of discussions need to be had, or whether you can just like pick it up. I don't know. Maltese Bays, let us know. But apart from that, first of all, no, you do not know her body. Even if you've been keeping track of her ovulation, for somebody who knows so fucking much about sperm and sperm health and ovulation and making babies, he seems to have glossed over the fact. Now, when we were talking about this while watching the episode, you corrected me. I thought sperm can only stay in the body for 3 days, but you're saying it's 5 days.
3 to 5, depending on
How
when in
sticky
the
they are?
ovula when
How
in the ovula
determined?
how determined they are, how much they're fighting to get through. Yeah, no, but 3 to 5 days. But you could. It's not a 72 hour situation. There's leeway. It's not an exact science.
Right, right.
I
And
mean, he
neither
thinks it's an
is,
exact science, but
he thinks that he knows from, like he could use a divining rod and be like, nope, you're not pregnant. Yeah, this is, as Ani says herself, this isn't about being with a woman or having a relationship with a woman. This is about this desperate need to spread his seed as far as it will go. And it's
do you?
disgusting to
I had a really
try and
horrible
control.
vision of
Sorry, go
him.
ahead. Yeah,
No, it's
you had a
fine. It's
horrible
just
vision.
when she said that, I just pictured him almost like a dandelion. You know, you can blow the
Mm-hmm.
seeds everywhere. I
Yeah.
just pictured him like that's him jerking off into the wind, hoping it blows around and hits a woman in the right spot. He's it made him anything that I said last week about him being less creepy. He went way back in the other direction and
No,
became super
he
creepy.
he undid what little goodwill there ever was towards him, because this is fucking disgusting, and there's no excuse for this behavior. People who can get pregnant, if your partner pulls this shit on you for any reason, um get the fuck out. I'm not going to mince my words there. Men's do not control you. If you have unprotected sex with someone, it's your body, it is your choice. They unless you're in a committed relationship, in which case, yeah, I think that is a conversation you need to have.
Definitely.
Um but no. No, this is so much no, and it's so disgusting. It's worse than it's worse than looking at a group of Italian girls on the beach and saying, like, which lobster are we having? Go pick a random girl and start a conversation to eventually procure them for sex for me. This is like, it's reasonable to ask him to get the morning after pill, especially if he's going out. It's unreasonable of him not to do it, because what he's not saying, he's having this argument about whether she's pregnant or not, and what he's not saying is, I secretly know in the back of my head that there's a possibility, and if
Right.
you took away that possibility, then that's my control gone, and that's my whatever, like, 78th child
Now,
I'm
I'm
missing out
curious,
on.
what do you think happened with Annie between having a good time with Kyle and choosing to sleep with him without a condom, knowing that, he's a donor, excuse me. Um, what do you think changed in her by the time she woke up in the morning that was like, what the fuck did I do? I got to get a morning after pill. Like, what am I doing?
uh I'm gonna
And it's
say
tough. I'm
that,
asking you to get in her head a little bit because we didn't really see this. So this is more from your perspective as far as you can read into it.
well, look, I've been in a similar situation with someone who I was living with at the time and was in a long-term relationship
Hmm.
with, and I really, it was actually having that conversation with him that made me realize that we probably should have broken up then. We ended up staying together for like another year, and then he dumped me. But um that's where you really find out where your priorities are. And I think it was the idea that I think she hadn't thought of pregnancy as a possibility, because you immediately go to, um, and I don't mean to be uncharitable here, but I think for a lot of men, well, there's a saying, and again, whatever, there's a saying that the person carrying the baby becomes a parent the minute that they know that they're pregnant, and that
Hmm.
the the father, the other partner, the partner is not carrying the child,
Yeah.
becomes a parent when they hold the child. Now, I don't think that's universal across the board, but I think that maternal instinct kicked in when she realized she might be pregnant, and she thought, okay, if I if I had the time to really figure this guy out and get to know him, and uh like, she's thinking about that kid, right? She's
Yes.
immediately thinking, how am I going to realistically, because I don't want to marry this guy. I don't want to marry him now. I'm probably never going to want to marry him.
Right.
realistically, how do I raise two children on my own? I can't do that. Therefore, I need to take care of this right now. Whereas Kyle's first thought is me, 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 me. I don't want to miss out on my next like tadpole here. So, froglet, get it together. Change your mind.
Well, and then that leads into, and I mean that it doesn't lead into it; it leads directly into it, which is Annie seemingly coming to the realization that he is quote unquote a what did I write? I don't think I wrote down her words, but I wrote yes, I wrote that he's doing some weird population thing, and that's like the clinics where the one doctor is jerking off into all the tubes and sending it to all the
Yep.
women. And
Yep.
that is where I think she finally got, I think she's been sort of trying to convince herself that this is not some sort of weird God complex, repopulate the earth in my image type of thing. And I think that, and maybe that morning after pill was, I'm not saying it was an intentional test, but maybe it resonated with her as a test because it
I
seems
think
like
it probably
that's
was.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a
Yeah.
good read there. It's because it just seems like she gets it. Like this is not the right guy. This is not a quote
Mm-mm.
unquote normal guy who someone like her should be looking to have a child with at this time.
Yeah. I'm only gonna object to the use of the word normal because
I
I,
said quote unquote.
yeah, yeah.
I just
I
meant
just,
it
I just
for
meant,
yes.
weird guys make great parents too.
I'm a weird guy. I definitely yes. No, no. I meant more. Let me say. I meant more. Let me say average instead of whatever Kyle is, because I don't think he's average. I think
Sure.
he's a
Yeah.
different cut, is all I meant by that.
I think he's a weird wolf. That's what my that's what my friend from the Midwest likes to say.
I
He's a
like
weird
that.
wolf. Yeah. Um I have a question for you.
All right.
And we touched on this earlier. So, one, actually, multiple questions now. One, is Kyle a never nude?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. It's because when you said that you pictured him in just the t-shirt, all I've been picturing this whole season was his flesh-colored t-shirt that he wore earlier in the season. So now I'm picturing
Hmm.
him having sex with the nude-colored shirt on him. And
Right.
I mean, he's not a never nude, but at the same time, I did accuse him of taking his penis through the fly of his jockey shorts to have sex. So that would imply a never nude. And can you picture him being the type of person who wears a bathing suit when he's alone in the shower?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
can.
Yeah. But now,
He
see,
probably wears some weird like aqua diaper to protect his sperm or something. He probably thinks that like the nastier his ball sack is, he's like there's stuff growing there, you know? He probably thinks the dirtier, the sweatier the
hey,
ball sack
Kyle,
is like
you should not be braiding your ball hair. You should shave your balls. No, I can't. It's protecting my sperm inside of my balls.
he would never shave his balls. He would never take that risk. Not
What
in a
you
million
think?
years.
So he's afraid that he'd cut himself open and he'd lose his abilities.
Yep. Yep.
Everybody, if you use
He's
a
like,
normal razor on your face, you won't cut anything off that you're going to lose.
"Do you remember that it's probably the first or second episode of Letterkenny where they talk about the friend of theirs who tore his ball sack open and had to show his mom. And then they were
Yes.
talking about completely deadpan about all the different permutations of like, I'd hate to see my own vas deferens. I'd hate to see my own like,
If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, terrific Canadian TV show available on Hulu in the Americas. Letterkenny, Canadian, very funny. Take a look.
and if you're in the UK, it's on ITV,
There you go. It's
which
worldwide.
is which is fantastic. We've just Jack recently recommended it to me, and the boys absolutely love it, and so do I.
Look at
It's
that.
really good. It's really dirty, but it's got a solid gold heart that comes through right away.
And I do want to mention, just on the topic of this show, it is based around, quote, Hicks who live in suburban Ontario and are farmers. What is very cool about the show is there's a lot of representation from across the board, and they treat everyone with respect, and everyone gets a little bit of screen time, and really great show. So you should all when you're done listening to our hours of podcasts, you should sprinkle in a little Letterkenny. And hey, we'd love to watch an episode, so maybe we'll do that
And
on a Patreon.
speaking of extra stuff,
Oh,
so
that's right. I
our
almost went over
bonus
this.
episode, yes, I should have said this in the beginning. I'm going to announce it in other places, but you may have noticed um, that I shouted out a business on our Facebook. We have a listener and friend of the show who I deeply enjoy talking to. I'm not going to say her name or her business because she hasn't cleared me to do that, but I did promote it on our Instagram. Queer owned and operated small businesses. If you have one and you want a shout out, you get one this month. And I'll put it on our Instagram. I'll put it on our Facebook, our socials. Just email me, bladydayfiance at gmail.com. If you have like an offer, the coupon that you can give our listeners, something like that, that would be great. If you can't afford to do that, that's absolutely fine. You pay nothing for this endorsement, but we love you and we love our LGBTQIA plus community, and we want to support you as best we can. In addition to that, our bonus episode this week is a classic episode of the L Word, as we already said in the beginning. So, just a
Yes.
reminder of that. Anything else before we close this chapter of Love in Paradise?
If this is paradise, I don't want to know what hell is.
If this is paradise, I don't want to know what purgatory hell is either.
Purgatory hell forever? Eternal purgatory hell? But
All
I do
right.
really want to hear from everybody, and I'm not going to keep you anymore. I look forward to seeing you the next time I'm on. And Michelle, say goodbye to the lovely people.
Goodbye to the lovely people.